Now, the long-running review of the railway system on this island was published today, well, the findings of it were, and it's recommending nearly £30 billion be spent over the next 25 years to help the environment and passengers. Take a look at this. This is the current rail map on the island as it stands, but look how it would change if all these proposals were put in place. Certainly it would make a difference to this area from the Midlands up to the northwest. Let me step you through some of the details. Particularly at Belfast International Airport, it's been recommended that that be connected to a rail line and reinstating the Lisburn to Antrim line to help do that. But they also want to see Dublin and Shannon airports linked up by train as well. New or reinstated lines will also be used up in around Londonderry. They're going to link Derry to Letterkenny, but also coming south from Derry, they want to link it to Portadown. Now, that would take in Strabane and Omagh, but what is key here, and what we'll hear more about in a minute, is that it does not include Enniskillen or indeed anywhere in Fermanagh. Further south in Portadown, they want to link a line through Armagh and Cavan that would bring you as far as Mullingar. Now, all of that is just the tip of the iceberg, but how likely is it to happen? And what about those already feeling left out by these plans? From Fermanagh, our correspondent Louise Cullen reports.
Cut more than 6 decades ago, this museum in Enniskillen preserves Fermanagh's railway history. After the draft report last year ruled out its return, enthusiasts like Mark Robinson hoped people power might change that, but it wasn't to be.
I was disheartened. There was no even short term where they could set aside land or anything, so it kind of leaves it struggling in the future if we ever want to change that. So disheartened, but happy about everything else.
Like the connection to be restored between Derry and Portadown, that will bring railway services to Strabane, Omagh and Dungannon.
It is a bit of a dangerous road at times, so it will be good in that sense, yeah, to get the traffic off the road.
If you can get a train to these places, you'll get the train and go in comfort.
Oh, well, I would let the car home all right, yeah. The price of fuel now, like, you know what I mean? It'd be great to have it here, but they should connect the whole thing up, I reckon.
And it's been described as a historic day for rail on the island of Ireland.
Most inspiring bits of it was this idea of a line from Portadown, Dungannon, Omagh, Strabane, Letterkenny, as well as Derry. Because of each one of those towns, now that's expensive, that's new, that's big thinking, but it would transform that whole part of the country and the connectivity to the northwest, which I think in the consultation was the biggest issue that came up every time.
But with the clock ticking on our 2050 net zero goals, the big question is money. Costs are estimated at up to £31 billion, with Northern Ireland responsible for a quarter of that.
Budgets at the moment are extremely difficult, but we do have funds. So it's about decisions I will make. It'll be decisions that future ministers and the executive will make as to how this plan is implemented. But I don't think we have any choice. Climate change is a reality, and we have to change how we transport people and goods, and rail is a great way of doing that.
Just not in Fermanagh, and several other places ruled unviable for rail.
We are disappointed that the feedback we gave in last year's consultation, pretty much none of it seems to have been taken into account. We still have Fermanagh left as the only county in Britain or Ireland without rail. We still have Cookstown overlooked.
These will be the only trains running in Fermanagh for the foreseeable. Louise Cullen, BBC Newsline, Enniskillen.
A review into improving rail networks across Northern Ireland and the Republic has been released, with more than 30 recommendations made.
Among them are plans to better connect our airports, as well as creating new stations and networks. Well, Stuart Robson has the details. Stuart.
Yes, thank you, Rose. Yes, this review dates back to 2020 when the New Decade New Approach deal was delivered at Stormont. Both the Executive and the Irish Government pledged to transform the rail network island-wide. And now, 4 years later, we finally have details on what this plan entails. 32 recommendations have now been published on how the rail network on both sides of the border will look in the not-too-distant future. The use of some rail lines will recommence, while other locations will have a train station for the very first time. So how are things set to change? Well, firstly, in County Armagh, a new station will open in Craigavon. Meanwhile, a line linking Portadown and Mullingar and Westmeath will be restored. A line will also be restored between Portadown and Londonderry. That means Dungannon, Omagh and Strabane will all benefit. staying in the northwest, and a new rail link will be developed between Letterkenny and Derry. Now, for those who want to use public transport to get to our airports, well, things look set to improve too. Belfast International will be reconnected via a Lisburn to Antrim line. Dublin Airport will be serviced via a metro link to and from the city centre. There are also plans to have high-speed intercity routes across the island. Now, some improvements are already progressing, including a more frequent service between Dublin and Belfast and the construction of Grand Central Station at Great Victoria Street. Now, all of these plans are being put in place to make train travel quicker and more environmentally friendly, but that, of course, comes at a cost. But how much exactly? Well, the report estimates the final bill to total up to £31 billion. A quarter of that will fall to Northern Ireland. The rest will be covered by the Republic's government. It is worth noting that the report's authors say that the economic boost brought by these changes would cover that cost. And secondly, when will it all be completed? Well, don't be expecting things to change quickly. It's estimated that the project will take the next 25 years to complete. So good news for many towns and cities across Northern Ireland, but not all. Excitement at what's been described as an ambitious project isn't being felt in the southwest.
Yes, as Stuart has just explained, Fermanagh is the only county on the island of Ireland not to be connected by rail as part of the review. John O'Dowd says that he knows that people are disappointed, but also says that the sums don't add up because to build a rail link from Omagh to Enniskillen would cost £400 million.
Campaigners warn the county is being left behind, as Sarah O'Kane reports.
You can travel to Fermanagh by road, by boat, but not by rail. The multi-billion-pound plan will connect every county on this island by train except Fermanagh.
The draft review was first published. Enniskillen and Fermanagh weren't included. I asked the consultants to go back again and look at that. And unfortunately, at this stage, the sums simply do not add up. To build 40 kilometres of rail link between Omagh and Enniskillen would cost over £400 million in today's money. And the forecasts are that there would not be returns on that.
Minister, I'm not sure how you got here yourself today, but do you ever envisage a time where perhaps you'll be popping on a train and coming to Enniskillen?
Yes, I do. This is the end of a chapter. It's not the end of the story. The end of the story is still yet to be written, and I firmly believe, when you look at the projections for the future, that Enniskillen and Fermanagh can and will be included on it.
There was a rail service in this area, but it closed in 1957. The final report, published today, acknowledged that the most cited issue of the last public consultation was the absence of proposals to extend rail links to Enniskillen.
To single out Fermanagh, which considers itself to be the forgotten county anyway, and to say, do you know what, guys? You don't deserve good infrastructure. Everybody else does, and we're going to prioritise everybody else, and we're going to have, fast trains scuttling up and down between Belfast and Dublin because the East Coast is what really matters on this island. But sorry, Fermanagh, you guys don't even warrant the most basic of rail provision. It's an appalling message to send, and we need to make sure it's overturned.
Been left out, it's been neglected. It really has, compared to the other counties.
Do you think with tourism here in Fermanagh it really would benefit to have a rail link to Enniskillen?
I think it would. It would. Because they'll come direct and then get the lanes to link up.
Speaking to the government, I mean, if they're encouraging people to use public transport and they're not putting it on, that's all. I think it's awful that it's left out.
For now, people here will have to find other ways to get about. Sarah O'Kane, UTV Live, Enniskillen.